Stand by, Mr. Hayes, for the stream.
All right.
Stand by 1 second.
Oh, it's meeting order.
We are live.
Stand by. Yes, sir, we are live.
All right, let's call the meeting to order, please. Do we have any special intentions tonight? Greg?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for your prayers and condolences for Miss Gloria Jean Talbert Johnson, or as she is affectionately known south of Airline from Shrewsbury to St. Rose, one word, Gloria Jean. Lifelong resident, happens to be a relative of mine, lifelong member of Pilgrim Baptist Church, but just a fantastic person that will truly be missed, but will never be forgotten. So I ask for your prayers for Ms. Gloria Jean and her family. Thank you.
Mayor?
I'd like to ask for some prayers for the Alfred Scott family. He is a superintendent with Public Works. He's been with the city of Kenner for quite a few years. I believe his father and his mother have worked for the city of Kenner. He unfortunately lost his daughter, Ariel, this past week, within the last few days. So, you know, when one of our family members lose, you know, one of their family members, it's even tougher and hits home for all of us. So he's a great guy. So is his wife and his mother and his dad, who is deceased. So we're keep them all in our prayers.
George?
Yeah, I would like to keep the Giatano family in our prayers. This past about a week ago, Barbara Giatano, Joe's wife, passed away, and basically she was Miss Mus Bertolino for many years. Coached with her, I had a great relationship with them during my days at Bertolino, and would just like to keep the Giatano family in our prayers.
All right, anybody else? All right. For the invocation tonight, I'd like to do a quick introduction. I've asked our city attorney, Ed Rapier, who is a deacon in the Catholic Church. He's assigned to St. Andrew the Apostle Parish. And Deacon Rapier, if you would lead us in prayer tonight.
Let us prepare to pray. Father, you have called us to be the servants of our brothers and sisters of the city of Kenner. We meet here as their representatives, and we ask for the grace of your guidance so that we can truly represent them. Help us who serve in leadership positions to remember that all of our concerns are aimed at the transformation of our community for the better. Grant us your gifts of wisdom, fortitude, and charity, so that we have the courage to make the wise decisions that are necessary for the betterment of our city, and instill in us the virtue of charity so that we treat all with the dignity and respect that they are entitled. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilmot, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Place your hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum, all are present. And in accordance with Council Resolution number B-14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting.
Thank you.
Are there any resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor? We have none. Mr. Chairman, the consent agenda, item 1 is approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of June 19th, 2020. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. We have none. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor?
Thank you, Council Chairman. I have a few things to talk about that I'm we have a special guest who wants to take the floor and talk about something that's very important that's coming up, but I'll get a few things out the way first. Talking about masks, we did a mask giveaway this morning in District 5 at the Kenner Pavilion, Kenner City Park. It was attended by a few of you council people, which we appreciate, my staff. We had pretty good attendance. It seems that the people come at one time, and I've talked to Cynthia Lee Shang about this. They come at one time, they line up, they get their mask, and then we see a little bit of a lull, and just people keep on coming through little by little. But I think a lot of people have already gotten their masks, but we still have more to give out. We will continue to give them out. We'll probably do another one next week to make sure that Kenner is masked up, because the Mask Up Kenner campaign is really going well. And we've had people, Kenner residents, we've had Kenner Council, we've had people that work indirectly as vendors or directly as vendors with the city of Kenner in our campaign. And we've been doing PSAs, and I want to thank the council that's done it. And I want to thank the council people that are getting ready to do it sometime tomorrow or next week. We appreciate that. But when we reach out to these famous faces that Rockin' Dupsy, Sidney Torres, JT Curtis, a lot of people out there, and just to mention a few, there's so many of them. Ms. Crawford has done it, and Rob Schulte and Miguel Elias. We're reaching across the whole city of Kenner with residents and also with people that have a connection to the city of Kenner. The PSAs are really, really well received. Our public likes it, and that's what leads into the mandatory mask requirement. Most people do like it. There are some that don't like it. You hear a lot, and I heard it at lunch today, sitting with some people, that they don't like to be told by government what to do. Well, you know what? Some people don't like to be told to wear a seatbelt. Some people don't like to be told that you can't smoke inside of a restaurant. It's the way it goes. It is for public safety. It is public safety that we're looking for. And the mask requirement is nothing more than public safety. It's to keep others safe and also keep you from spreading it. It might also help you from catching it. So there's a lot that we don't know about this disease and this pandemic, but what we do know is it's better than not doing anything. I want to thank the business community for their support. I know that the members of the JBC, Jefferson Business Council, such as Henry Shane, a Kenner resident, Kenner businessman, has reached out to me. I want to thank Ann Brannigan, the president of Kenner Business Association. They get it. The business organizations get it, because when we're doing this, we're attempting to make sure that we stay in the current phase that we're in, because nobody wants to go back. Not saying we are, but nobody wants to take the chance of going back and hindering business. In a restaurant today, we talked to you, Councilman Hayes, you were with me, Councilman Segura. We talked to a few people. They walked in with their mask and they had no problem with it. They take it off and they sit down and they can do what they need to do. So we appreciate the cooperation of our citizens and also the council, our police department and our fire department and our EOC for working with us with this. Good news is what we have on some things that are happening with House Bill 2, capital outlay. State Representative Joe Stagney. We talked about State Representative Debbie Villio, I think Councilman Hayes, at the last meeting, which she did for us in Lake Town. Now, State Representative Stagney has delivered the possibility of us going before the Bond Commission to get $1.2 million with we only have to do about 25% of that for Lincoln Manor drainage. That's something that Councilman Carroll has been very supportive of, something we've been working on for a very long time. Seems like it pops up on capital outlay numerous times, but we just never seem to get to that point. We've gotten there. And again, I want to thank Councilman, I always call him a councilman serving with him. I want to thank State Representative Joe Stagney for what he has done, along with Senator Gary Smith, and of course, our Senator Kurt Talbot and Debbie Villio for all they do, along with the whole delegation, because that's important for us. Very, very important. Tamithia Shaw has gotten us a grant from $1.1 million grant for lead testing and remediation. I think that's very important that we're getting that in. I want to thank Tamithia Shaw for her hard work on that and everything she does, along with all of our directors, but that's important. So thank you, Tamithia, for that. The other thing we have is, and I apologize for the background noise. The other thing we have is a very important vote coming up on August 15th. It has to do with East Jefferson General Hospital. That is a very important vote. It's the acquisition of East Jefferson General Hospital. As a former Jefferson Parish Councilman, I can tell you, this is something that we went through for many years on the parish level, the council did, but now Henry Shane is here as a board member with numerous years of experience to talk to us. And look, I can tell you that this is extremely important that we vote the right way on this, because keeping those doors of that hospital open are extremely important. West Jefferson did it while I was there, and it has proven to be very beneficial for the West Bank. I think the East Bank residents are absolutely do the same service by East Jefferson General Hospital. Like I said, Henry has a lot of experience. He was my board member. He's been a board member for at least 4 council people for District 4, which includes Kenner. And Mr. Shane is here to say a few words. And he also has a presentation with some of the LCMC people. So Henry, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Councilman Hayes, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Henry Shane, 18 Oakland Road in Kenner, Louisiana. I want to thank the mayor again and the council for giving me this opportunity. With me today is Gerald Horton, the CEO of East Jefferson, and Greg Furring, the CEO of LCMC. You know, I've been, like Ben mentioned, for 28 years a board member. I'm almost like the official board member of the city of Kenner, because I was appointed by all the Kenner Jefferson Parish councilmen, and Munez Zahn, and now Councilman Impastato. And when I got to there 28 years ago, it was a small, very small hospital, and the Jefferson Parish Council and the people of Jefferson had paid $10 million in total taxes collected for what they had on the site. Since I've been on the board, we haven't spent a dime of parish money or citizens' tax money. It's all been rebuilt and built with the proceeds of the operation of the hospitals. When I got there were shell parking lots. In the hospital, since I've been there, we have enlarged the hospital 3 times. We built 3 large parking garages. We built the Domino outpatient facility, a cardiology building, the Yenny Cancer Pavilion. We bought Doctors Hospital, which was another hospital that was adjacent to us, and the Brown McHardy Clinic. We also bought that. And we built the Wellness Center and 4 office buildings, and bought recently some more vacant land for expansion, all with the earnings of the hospital. So the taxes paid were only the initial $10 million to get the hospital going. The earnings were really good for the first 14 years. No, let's see, that would be the first 10 years. Good for the first 18 years, yeah. And then afterwards, for the last 10, they have really slowed down and have started to decline. A lot of things have happened to us. One, the aging of our community has forced us into Medicare rates, and Medicare rates they don't even reimburse you for your costs. And then we've had many, I guess, surgery centers built that have taken away part of our business. The state has treated us terribly. They take the money that we should get for uninsured patients and give it to the rural hospitals. And the reserve payments, the reduced payments that we have received from managed care have hurt us also. We're a standalone hospital. So when you try to negotiate, you don't have a lot of stroke. And in fact, I was told by Blue Cross we were 1% of their business, and we had to take their rate and go away, or, you know, they didn't really need us. So standalone hospitals, which we are, you can't negotiate for anything, and you don't have the purchasing power and the back offices that a system has. East Jefferson is the last standalone hospital in this greater area. And the board has known this for a while. We actually been negotiating and looking at for the last 10 years, but really actively for the last 8 years. And we've met with about every entity you could possibly meet to discuss combining assets, merging, leasing, partnerships, and sale of the asset. The state law prohibits the sale of the asset without a vote of the people. But that's where we are today. We believe the board has unanimously approved, and we believe we're at the point where East Jefferson really has no choice but to sell the assets to a system that would operate it. The sale of the assets would do a lot for us. It would give us maintain the quality care. The one thing that East Jefferson has done through all the years I've been there is maintain a great quality of care. In fact, we rated in the nation in the first 10. And we always lead in any survey that's done in the quality, by outsiders, not by us, for the quality of care. So we maintain the quality of care, but we want to be assured if we go forward with the sale that the quality of care would be maintained. But we really need capital too at this time. Since we have been in a decline, we haven't been able to spend the capital that we really need. And the sale would also cover, which is important, all the debts of the hospital, pay off the bonds, and the pension, which we all know pension liabilities are quite a bit for almost any governmental type agency. And what we also would do, I estimate that if East Jefferson ceased to exist, you would lose 6,000 jobs on the East Bank of Jefferson. That would be the biggest loss of jobs the community has ever seen. So I'm asking really for the council to give us your support. We need to get the word out to everybody. This is not a situation where anything can be solved. That you can't change anything to solve it unless you rework the whole medical system. And I don't think that anyone's going to do that just for East Jefferson to solve its problems. So I'm asking that we need to get the word out. We need this sale to take place. We've explored as a board and as administration every possible thing we can do. You could bring in any consultant right now and they will tell you we operate a mean and lean organization. There's nothing to be cut. We just need people to pay us more money, and it doesn't work in this system that we're in today. So again, I want to thank everybody, and I like the two CEOs can give you more detail. But since I served so long, I just asked Ben if I could make a quick presentation on what I think. And Gerald Parton is here, and he has some more to add, I guess, to this request. Gerald?
Thanks, thanks, Henry. I'm going to let Greg go first in the presentation. Greg?
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Fern, CEO of LCMC Health. Mr. Chairman, Kenner City Council, Mayor Zahn, appreciate you allowing us to speak to you tonight. We do have a short presentation we'll walk through. Both Gerald and I will cover it. I believe Tiffany's on the line, and if she could share the screen. Start off with Today is an extraordinary day. We're excited to share the news that LCMC Health is moving forward in welcoming East Jefferson General Hospital and its talented team to our family of hospitals.
On behalf of East Jefferson General Hospital, we are proud to join LCMC Health and continue caring for the community we've served since our opening in 1971.
As individuals, as teams, as hospitals, as one system, we can achieve extraordinary things together. Thanks to the one-of-a-kind people who make it possible. Your unique passions, commitment, and spirit that make you, you. No matter where you work or your role, every employee supports the same mission: to create an extraordinary experience for our patients, their families, and our community. LCMC Health and East Jefferson General Hospital share an amazing legacy in the community and the little something extra we all bring to work every single day. And now we need the support of our community in saying yes to the future, a future that together will be extraordinary. Today. All right. Thank you, Tiffany. If you could move to the next slide. So a couple of things here. I think one thing, just that video, we worked with East Jeff. All of the folks in that video are East Jeff employees, with the exception of me. I will tell you the enthusiasm that you see in there is matched when we speak to the folks at East Jeff, especially their medical staff, which is important. We share similar values, similar culture. We at LCMC Health are supportive of all the different physician models, whether it's employed, independent, faculty-based. And we think that fits in nicely, as does our mission. We at LCMC Health, our mission's born out of Children's Hospital. It's in our DNA to care for all members of the community. The greater New Orleans area, Jefferson Parish, both East and West Banks, and the surrounding area. And we like to say that we do it with a little more heart and soul than our competition, and we think that makes us different. If you go to the next slide, Tiffany. So just a quick summary of who LCMC Health is in our timeline. Children's Hospital formed LCMC Health in 2009. We did that when we acquired Turo Infirmary. And then from there, we formed a public-private partnership with the state and the operation of the University Medical Center downtown. We manage New Orleans East Hospital through an agreement with that service district. We lease West Jefferson Medical Center. So today, we are essentially 5 hospitals and about 1.8 billion in, if you go to the next slide, Tiffany. So we have just under 10,000 employees. Adding East Jeff to that will get us over 12,000. Without East Jeff, LCMC Health provides nearly 800,000 clinic visits, almost 260,000 ER visits. We work with virtually all of the academic institutions in town. On the big university side, primarily LSU and Tulane. I'll tell you that over the last several years, our growth has been pretty exceptional across the system. We've seen growth at all of our facilities, including West Jeff. That growth has allowed us to capture almost 2 percentage points in market share and has created a stronger organization. We were recently told by S&P that even with our acquisition of East Jefferson General Hospital and the expense burden that might bring on our system, they believe we will still maintain our A+ credit rating, which is only matched by one other institution in the entire state. That's Willis Knighton up in Shreveport. So we think we're well positioned to be a great partner to Jefferson Parish, especially the East Bank. Keep East Jeff right where they are with their great team of personnel, their wonderful physicians, and the great care that they provide to the community, which this COVID-19 pandemic has certainly shown how important our healthcare systems are. And I'll end with saying LCMC Health partnered with East Jeff throughout the pandemic, just as we partnered with HCA and Tulane and Ochsner, make sure we were doing what was best for Jefferson Parish, New Orleans, and the surrounding communities. We worked together on bed balancing and supplies. And we made it through the peak of the pandemic remarkably well. LCMC Health did as a system, and I do know that East Jeff did. I'll tell you, we're experiencing an increase in positives. I believe because that's largely due to the robust testing that's taking place across our communities. At LCMC Health, and I think that East Jeff shares the same, we haven't seen a huge uptick in our hospitalization rate. And to put that in perspective, at least at LCMC Health this morning, the number of COVID-19 positive patients in our hospitals was 40 or less. That's 10% of what we had at our peak. So we believe we have the capacity to handle a slight surge if that's what will happen. We're prepared for that. I do want to say I appreciate Mayor Zahn's comments around masking. It is important, and we continue to put that message out there. It does help slow the spread, and it's important that we all try to follow that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gerald.
Thank you, Greg. This is Gerald Parton. I'm the CEO of East Jefferson General Hospital. And again, thank you for allowing us to make this short presentation to you. And, I want to thank LCMC and Greg. We knew initially we had picked the right partner, but going through the pandemic, just put an exclamation point on that. During the pandemic, we really got backed up, and LCMC came to our rescue on many fronts. They shared supplies with us, invited us into their command center meetings every day. And even when we got backed up, or more importantly, when we got back up in our emergency room, they allowed us to transfer patients to their facility, which really helped us immensely. So if we could get into our presentation, our part of the presentation, both East Jefferson and LCMC have a history of recognition for quality of care. And I can't tell you how proud I am of my staff for the things that they have done. We were the first Louisiana nurse magnet hospital. We have maintained an A score in Leapfrog. Leapfrog is an independent quality review organization. And we are the only 4-star facility in the Orleans-Jefferson Parish area that is rated by CMS. And you can check that out on hospitalcompare.gov. Go to the next slide, please. We have over 2,400 employees with an estimated payroll of over $100 million. And this doesn't include our contracted services of the environmental care, IT, and rev cycle. We've done almost 220 clinic visits. We have last year performed almost 16,000 surgeries and over 50,000 emergency room visits. And we did have 239 active volunteers. Right now they're inactive, and we've asked for them to stay at home until this pandemic settles down in both their protection and ours. So if we go to the next slide, please. Of Jefferson on February 14th, 1971, we opened with 250 beds and 250 physicians. Today, we're licensed for 407 beds and have over 630 physicians on staff. As Henry mentioned, we've had a lot of growth over the years. The addition of Doctors Hospital, the Yenny building, the 3 parking garages. The 2 large office buildings out front actually are not owned by the hospital. We own the ground under them. They were developed by a developer and a group of our physicians, and then later sold those to a REIT. The other, we have developed an EMS services, which operates our ambulances, and 2 of those ambulances actually serve in the Kenner area. Next slide, please, Tiffany. This transaction will actually be seamless for the patients. Patients can continue seeing their care teams, their physicians, their nurse practitioners. There will be no gaps in their insurance coverage. We both share the not-for-profit mission, both LCMC and EJ, so we will continue to see and care for all patients. There'll be more opportunities for our professionals for both growth and other opportunities for advancement in their careers. But really, most of all, the residents of East Jefferson Hospital will continue to have a choice in healthcare. I'm going to ask Greg to give the details of the transaction.
Sure, thanks, Gerald. So just a quick summary of the transaction. As was pointed out earlier by Henry Shane, it is a purchase with upfront guaranteed money of $90 million. Along with that is $15 million, $5 million per year over 3 years, enhanced payments that could be earned depending on the success of the hospital. And lastly, there's a 5-year, $100 million capital commitment that would need to be met. I think that $100 million is important, should be viewed as important to the East Bank of Jefferson Parish as you think about their creation of jobs and the economic engine that hospitals are. This is an investment in that community. Continued improvement in services and technology. And as a nonprofit, it's us putting our profits back into our assets, and we have a legacy of doing that. You need to look further than West Jeff, and you can see out there on the West Bank what our capital commitment is doing just from transforming that hospital, not only on the inside, but externally. We have an $80 million campus transformation project that's been underway at West Jeff. We have a $300 million transformation at Children's Hospital that we're 2/3 of the way through. So I can assure you that these capital dollars as part of the agreement will be spent at East Jeff. So as Gerald pointed out, this transaction ensures that patients are able to continue to see their East Jeff physician at their hospital, who are cared for by their staff. And it's a continuation of the non-for-profit mission. The $90 million upfront purchase price provides money to the parish that, along with their cash that they currently have, can be used to settle up the liabilities that exist, i.e. the debt and the pension. So we're excited about this agreement. It does need a public vote because it is an acquisition of parish property. I'll turn it back over to you, Gerald.
Thank you, Greg. We've really received outstanding support for this sale. It was unanimously approved by the board of both organizations, unanimously approved by the Jefferson Parish Council. We've received endorsements from the Jefferson Chamber, the Greater New Orleans, Inc., the Civic League of East Jefferson Board of Directors, the East Jefferson Medical Staff, the East Jefferson General Hospital Foundation, and just recently, JEDCO. Next slide, please. So why is this sale necessary? Well, we are in technical default on our bonds. I think it's no surprise to anybody of our financial position, as Henry alluded to earlier. We continue to make strides on our expenses. In our last 3 years, we've cut out over $30 million of expenses without reducing our services or having a mass layoff. But we just have not been able to keep up with the rising costs of healthcare and the lessened reimbursement that we received. We just don't have the economies of scale that a multi-hospital system has. Our bonds have been downgraded for the past 5 years. And although we are current on both our interest and principal payments to our bondholders, last year we were forced to work into a forbearance agreement with our bondholders. This forbearance agreement requires us to sell the hospital by November 1st, 2020, or the bonds could be called. And if the bonds were called, that would put us in bankruptcy. You know, as a parish hospital and employee of a service district hospital, legally, I can't ask you to vote, anybody to vote for this. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg to finish up.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerald. Yeah, so we appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight, and certainly we're looking for support, and we're certainly looking for a yes vote by the members of the East Bank. We think it's a yes vote for the community. It's a yes vote to continue healthcare provided by the great hospital that East Jeff has been known to be over the many years. And it's a yes vote to keep a whole lot of jobs on the East Bank. So that vote is on August 15th. I think absentee voting starts July 25th. It's something that LCMC is very excited about, and we hope you are as well. Happy to take any questions.
And it's something that I can tell you all the medical staff and the employees of East Jefferson are excited about. And, you know, kind of a sobering thought, you take away COVID-19 and we would have closed this deal 8 days ago.
That is true.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Gentlemen, thank you all very much. Council members, any questions? Council member Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to thank the ladies and gentlemen from LCMC and Mr. Shane and all of the board members who are participating today and came personally to participate in our Zoom meeting. Obviously, we have been challenged by COVID-19 also, for the mere fact we're conducting our meetings the way we are now, but this is what we have to do. It reminds me of this particular function or juncture to be able to do of the Avondale Shipyard, which is mostly on the West Bank. But as we all know, it not only affected the shipyard, but all of the businesses and the people that work on the West Bank were directly affected too. And we sometimes have a tendency to be territorial for East Bank and West Bank. But this is something that I believe many of my friends and relatives work at East Jefferson and has been working there a long time since I graduated from high school. So this is something I think that will be great. I think it's an opportunity to learn, to do some things that are better that the hospital may not have done from a financial end, but giving us a fresh start to do the things to provide the healthcare that has changed, not only in Louisiana, but all over the country. So I look forward to supporting this. I obviously would be open to also doing something with the mayor and the council in the form of a proclamation for us to support this for our citizens to get the information. So again, I look forward to the opportunity for East Jefferson to continue to function in the healthcare facilities. And thank you guys for all of the work that have been done through the pandemic, from the housekeeping all the way to the doctors. Everybody has done a fantastic job. You mentioned some of the numbers about the COVID. The reason for that is, 1, the people, 2, the elected officials, and 3, people like yourselves that has provided the support to our community. So thanks again, Godspeed, and we look forward to supporting you guys in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Any other comments? Well, I'm going to step out and say, I was your banker from 90 to 98, your lead banker, and I was running the Chamber of Commerce for 7 years, right after Katrina. So I'm proud to see that the chamber's behind this. It's a vital decision. We're part of the East Bank, and again, I would hope that everybody gets behind this because it's totally essential to the East Bank and to the community at large. And thank you all for your presentation.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And we appreciate your support.
Mayor?
And just to wrap up, I want to thank Henry and everyone from LCMC that came here and also East Jefferson. But just to wrap up, one thing I did forget to talk about is I know a lot of questions have been on our brake tags. We've done a few things to make life a little bit easier, but we're starting to get a few questions on what if I go out of town? I think if you go out of town, you're still fine. That's what we've heard. That's what we've talked to other areas. But because we do need to get back to brake tags and issuing brake tags, next week we will be issuing something because we're still working on details right now. Hopefully Monday or Tuesday, we'll release a schedule for a brake tag station that will visit actually 3 areas of Kenner. So going from the south to the north, where we can actually bring it to our residents and make it a little bit more convenient than what they're having to experience right now. We still have issues with our brake tag personnel and also the location that we cannot use for other reasons because of COVID. But we will be releasing that hopefully Monday or Tuesday. Lee Rossell's working on that with KTV and also our media group to get that out. And hopefully by Friday or the following Monday, we'll be able to start having our first site up and running. So we're looking forward to that. I know it's been an inconvenience. We've issued those little pieces of 8x10 paper to put on your dashboard. And I know it's helped. We've heard from residents that it's helped, but we'd like to get back to issuing brake tags. It doesn't look like we can issue brake tags the way we've done it before, but we will be doing something to get those brake tags out. So, Council Chairman, that is that's all I have to say. And I do want to end it with saying congratulations, being the council president. And I like the way you're starting off already. So good luck for your 6 months.
Thank you, Mayor. We're not going to cover items 5 to 8. We have no activity there. So I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve the consent agenda. Council members, please vote.
Hey, Glenn, I think Councilman Carroll had his hands up before you went into.
Councilman Carroll?
Yeah, I mean, I could say it now, or I could wait till the end because, you know, since Mayor Zahn's comments early on, we've gone into some other things that are just as important. But I would be remiss not to comment on the association and the great news that Representative Stagney has done for the District 1, particularly the Lincoln Manor subdivision. A lot of people aren't aware that the water department and the canals are not subject to the city of Kenner's jurisdiction. We are not over that, the water or that. So when people think or make certain comments, we have to sometimes remind them of that. But this particular project is $1.2 million with Representative Stagney, as the mayor said earlier, that this has been going on for a number of years. It goes back to the time, and I like to thank all of our state representatives and senators when Councilman Wilmot was a state representative. We actually thought we were going in the right direction, but certain things happened and it did not go as planned. But now I think we're on the right footing. I believe the verbiage, the legislation is in place, and I have asked Representative Stagney to come to one of our meetings to address more particulars about that. So, you know, again, thank everybody for their support. And the Lincoln Manor, even though it has the moniker of Lincoln Manor, it also supports the Loyola subdivision in the area. So I'm sure Councilman Brennan and I are both happy for this, and we look forward as we move forward to get this project in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Brannigan, you had your hand up? You got it.
I'm good.
Anybody else?
Councilman
Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to echo the thoughts of Councilman Carroll, and I agree that the drainage project in Lincoln Manor has been going on for many, many years. It was identified way back through some of the Civic Association members in Lincoln, brought it to my attention, and we had several meetings over it, including with Jefferson Parish, where we actually got some funding. So, but apparently that funding went in another direction, as it does often with state funds. But I'm glad to see that we have this back in place, because it's all so important. I mean, the way the drainage works in the city of Kenner, it goes from south to north, and it bottlenecks right there in Lincoln. And unfortunately, Lincoln and University City and Audubon Place, those places get inundated with flooding. So this funding will help that. So I'm glad to see it's there, and I'm going to be in full support. Thank you.
No.
Any other comments? We have a motion by Council Member McKinney, second by Council Member Wilmot. Council members, please vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. The next item on the agenda is the public appearance agenda. Item 9 is public hearings for final passage. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution amending Rule 42 of the Rules of Organization, Business Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner.
We have a motion by Council Member Segura, seconded by Council Member Hayes. Council Member Segura, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. This rule change is just needed to ensure that video recording of our meeting by anyone in the audience is done in a manner to maintain the decorum needed to hold a public meeting. And we just want to hopefully get this passed so we can have our meetings that way.
Council members, any other comments? Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want clarification on this. We're talking about line 2, the added verbiage, and it says designated area. In particular, I'd like to know what is meant by that and where that would be.
Councilman Segura.
Well, I can help answer that, and that's certainly a good question. The designated area right now, though, is very fluid, since we're not anywhere near going back into a live environment, and we don't know where that might be when we are able to do it. The designation of where that designated area is fluid. And so the decision to make the designated area, as I appreciate, would be in a cooperation with the council president and the administration.
Thank you. Adam, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this?
We do. Miss Stacy Alessandro has her hand up.
Yes,
Stacey,
ma'am.
you can unmute yourself and go.
Hello, everybody. Stacy Alessandro, 3309 Chateau Boulevard. Speaking in relation to this, on March 5th, I was at the council meeting and I was recording and broadcasting the meeting. And I was told under threat of possible arrest that I had to stop recording the meeting. I then, at one point in the meeting, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I had pointed out and I read into the record Louisiana law that stated that I had the right to video record these meetings. I was told at that point, City Attorney Ed Rapier then read into the record where you guys had the right to establish rules regarding video taping the meetings, taking pictures, recording and such, and that I didn't have the right to record that meeting. And this was under threat of arrest. Another citizen had her phone confiscated at the same meeting for simply taking a picture, which is also allowed under state law. So my question to you is, I see that y'all are establishing rules regarding decorum and such for video recording the meetings, taking pictures, and other matters related to video in the meetings. My question is that now you're adopting these as your formal rules, which is great. But my question, and Council President Hayes, I would ask that you please try to see if you can get my question answered. Prior to these rules being adopted today, does the City Council have any formal rules in place regarding decorum or positioning of citizens who would like to record the meetings? I had looked, City Attorney Rapier said they existed. I looked everywhere. I've asked several of you guys. Nobody can point me to them. So could you guys please tell me, other than the rules you're adopting today, where can I find the other rules? The rules that were in existence on March 5th, where are those formal rules so that I can look at those? I understand what you're doing today, but please point me to those. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Hayes. Thank you. I'm good.
Any response from anybody? Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Ms. Alessandro, for coming today. I also thank Councilman Wilmot for his concerns and Councilman Segura. As he mentioned, this is fluid because nothing has been established as it relates to just the positioning of that. And I think that's going to be important as we move forward to accommodate the citizens. I don't think we have anything established now, but I think as we get more and more information, as we move back into the council chambers, and as we deal with other litigations that's going on, that we are cognizant on ensuring that we don't put anything in ink right now, to be able to let some things play out to ensure that we are doing what's best and don't have to revisit it again. So I can appreciate Councilman Segura word usage of fluid, and to be able to look at this thing with a great pair of eyes, to be able to accommodate Ms. Stacy and everybody else. And just to answer her question for myself, other than the decorum that I have read and the council ruling and all, that was the extent that I knew of. So I believe that this is a good place to start, to acknowledge that if it is, to identify it, if it's not there, to say that it's not there, and to be able to ensure that going forward, we are inclusive of everything that we need to do for this going forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Again, we have a motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Hayes to approve. Council members, please vote.
Council President, before you vote, there's one more citizen that would like to talk. Mr. Alvarado would like to talk.
I'm sorry, Adam. Adam?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 48 years. The letter that you all received, that this council received from the State Attorney General's office, did not say anything about any designated area. It said what Ms. Alessandro just told you, that they have the right to record those meetings. And you've been put on notice. So I can tell you something, if you try to go afoul of the notice that you received from the Attorney General's office, you've already been put on notice that you will be fined. So if you want to go ahead on and you want to try to manipulate things around, or you want to try to stop somebody from doing what they have a right to do, be my guest, because the fine will be on you. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Morella. Anybody else? Adam? Councilman Wilmot first.
Thank you, Mr. President. My concern is having the designated area, and it's making it mandatory that we have a designated area for those who want to video and use audio and so forth and broadcast live. I'm going to suggest that we remove that language. I'm proposing an amendment to remove the 7 words in the legislation, specifically on the second line where after the first word shall, because it's mentioned twice in that one, the first word shall, there's 7 words: remove do so in designated areas, and shall a second time. Remove that language. So there's 7 words. In effect, what that does is it basically says that the citizens would have a right to use these recordings and do recordings and videotape and so forth, and that you don't have a designated area, but they have to do it in a reasonable fashion. You can't block aisles and so forth. And if that's the case, then they certainly can do it, but they're not going to have to do it in any particular designated area.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Do I have a second to that?
I can second, but I'd like to make a comment, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I appreciate what Councilman Wilmot is doing. And I think if maybe with that amendment, we can add, verbiage to say that while we have no intentions, and I want to affirm with Mr. Al, that this is why we're doing this. We're not doing it to take the position that he was alleging. We're doing it to support the community. And I think that there has to be verbiage in it saying that we cannot, obstruct citizens that come to the meeting. We cannot obstruct the council meeting, and as opposed to, and that is why I'm concerned about giving us a chance to go back into the council chambers and to look at it and to physically go in and try to see what is best. As long as we don't tie ourselves to something that's specific today, I think that's a good position for us to be in right now going forward with this. And
are you saying you want to table this discussion?
I said I can support Councilman Segura going forward, but as long as we don't designate today a specific location, that we have verbiage in it to say that it does not obstruct with citizens, it does not obstruct with the meetings, and that we're going to designate that once we get a chance to get back into. So does that mean tabling it? I don't know. I don't think we should, but we have to be careful that we don't get to a position where we are bound to do it without having to come back and to address it again. So
Thank you, Councilman.
Is there a second?
I second your amendment with those comments.
Councilman Brennan?
So are we designating it? I mean, I'm reading through it again. Is it designating a specific spot?
No.
Mr. Rapier?
Councilman Segura?
Oh,
well, I'll yield to Mr. Rapier, but no.
I'm sorry, no disrespect to either of you. Say that again, please, Mike.
Oh, no, I said I would yield to Mr. Rapier, but it's not designated in any specific area, so.
Okay. So the intent, if you would, of doing this is, again, to prevent obstruction. If we don't have a designated area, then anyone can walk up to any part of the meeting room, the council chambers, and record. Whether it's over by the microphone where the public speaks, whether it's the middle. So this is just, again, being designed, or the idea is that there would be no obstruction and no intrusion. Where Councilman Wilmot, your amendment, I believe, would allow for that because it's not more firm.
If you're asking me a question, I'd be glad to answer. If it's okay, Mr. President. Yeah, what it does is basically is, anybody can film or audio or tape or whatever anywhere in the audience. They're welcome to do so. There's not a designated area. it removes that, so we do not have to provide that as long as they're doing it in such a way that it's not intrusive on others and blocking the aisles, and it keeps the rest of the language of the legislation intact. So
Without designating it, aren't we making it more ambiguous than defining it? So that somebody in the fourth row could say, well, I'm standing up and there's no one behind me, but there may be somebody in the seventh row. Where, I mean, anyway, I'm against the amendment, and I just think we need to clarify more.
Well,
if you want it clarified more, we can add more language, and it'd be easy to do, to say that we still have, you can put a separate paragraph saying a designated area shall be provided for the purposes of videoing and sonic recording and broadcasting live. You can put that, and they can have a second area. But the way it's worded right now, it's specifically saying the only place, the way the language is right now, the only place they can record is in a designated area. So, I mean, you're either going to limit it to that one area, the way it currently reads, or you're going to go ahead and remove the designated area in this paragraph, the first paragraph, and then you can add a second paragraph saying that you're going to provide it. So or if you'd like, we can go ahead and work on the language in the future and defer it.
Councilman Brannigan?
Ed, can we legally put a designated area in for people to videotape?
Councilman, I'm not quite sure I understand your question the way it's phrased, but the one Attorney General opinion on videotaping says that the body has the right to control where and when where videotaping takes from, where people are when they videotape. Does the council have the absolute control of where things occur in the council meetings? I would tell you that the council president or the council needs to confer with the administration in order to determine the best way to handle where things occur within the council chambers. So you don't want to put a specific area in this rule for several reasons, not the least of which, if you have a council meeting in some other location, then you need the fluidity to be able to say where that designated area is, depending upon where your meeting is. Did I answer your question, Councilman?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rapier. We have an amendment on the floor by Mr. Councilman Wilmot. We have a second by Carol. Loose language. Councilman Segura.
Okay, just to comment on this amendment. It's very cloudy and does create some very extraneous concerns, because the intent of having a public meeting and have the decorum to have that public meeting as laid out in the state's open meeting law, public meeting law, says that the council shall control the decorum. And what this language is saying is we're going to be fluid with this right now, because if you don't designate an area, somebody could come and say, I want to stand behind the council president and film looking out the meeting that way, because it's a public hearing and I have a right to go wherever I want to go. So we have to be fluid and understand we're not trying to stop anybody from their right to video, whether it be audio or video, but do so in a manner that allows for the meeting's decorum to be upheld. And so, whereas, as I said earlier, right now, there is no designated area, but certainly in the future, depending where we may be holding our meetings, there will be a need to specify or just delineate what that is. But as I said, I think we got to have the assistance, the council president, along with the mayor and his administration to work through that. Mr. Mayor, would you have some thoughts or ideas on where we can do this? It's your building.
Yeah, when you came to me a while back with this and we talked about it, obviously we'd work with you as the author of the legislation and also now the council president, Councilman Hayes. I can think back to a few meetings where people were filming in the aisles when other people were trying to get up to the microphone, sometimes very distracting, sometimes where you couldn't see, the general public couldn't see. We have issues with KTV that they won't be able to see everything that they need to have access to. We have issues with, we want to make sure that we y'all keep a decorum like y'all do and make sure that it's not obstructing anyone's vision. So I would think that if we could do something on either one of the rows, or if you get into a row, then you start having to move some people, or a side, like when the media comes, they usually go off, if you're looking from y'all's point of view up on the dais, they usually go to the right-hand side. I'd be okay working with Glenn Hayes and Mike Segura with that. I think look, this is not my business, but when you get into the building, it is my business. I think if you don't put a designated area in the legislation, there starts to be a lack of control of the council meeting. And that becomes an issue if Councilman Hayes, as the council president, for the day we get back to the council chambers, it becomes a problem for you, Councilman Hayes. It becomes a problem for the administration. It becomes a problem for the Kenner Police Department, which obviously is involved in some of the past issues that we have to resolve with some things that are going on. So if we could put a designated area decided by the council president, the mayor / general services, I think we can come up with something that is very acceptable to every resident who wants to videotape. And that might help you. That might help you, Councilman Wilmot, feel a little more comfortable, because that gives input, only input from the council in the city building, which I am absolutely, totally ready to do, which I told you, Councilman Segura, about a month ago when this all came out, or 2 months ago.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. And again, as you mentioned, and as any logical understanding is, our council chambers is not all that spacious when it comes to ingress and egress, and the side walls get crowded at times, and that's a safety for the fire department. It's a safety certainly for the police to do any work they have to do if we're congregating in these narrow areas. So setting at some point the designation, and that's why I said earlier, it's council president and administration working through this, depending where we're at, to designate what a designated area is to ensure the health, the safety of everybody in the chambers, because we cannot block the ingress and egress of the building. So for both fire and police services, as well as public needing to move around. So I welcome any assistance the administration and the council president would work toward designating.
Can I say one more thing? Can I say one more thing, Council President? Yeah. Look, as you want to make it, available for those that want to videotape, for those that choose not to videotape, they have just an equal right to be able to view the meeting in person. So, I mean, just because some want to videotape doesn't mean that the ones that don't want to videotape should be hindered any kind of way with this. So I think by doing a designated area decided by council president / the mayor, and the mayor / general services, I think you find that neutral ground, common ground for what you're looking for, Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I agree, a designated area is a good thing we could have, but it shouldn't be the only thing. That's where I'm having some difficulties with. I think they should be able to, if they don't have big bulky equipment and they're going to use a cell phone or something to that effect, and they're not blocking anybody, I don't see why they have to go to a designated area to do that. I think we ought to take out and remove the designated area in paragraph 1, and then we can put a second paragraph, and then it'll have a designated area to add that. I don't think we have a problem having a designated area, especially when it comes to some of the TV stations and so forth. They bring in big cameras. I think it's a good thing to have a designated area for them and anybody else who might want to go there and film or use video recordings, etc., or live streaming, whatever. But when it comes to, it shouldn't be the only area. That's what I'm saying. And I don't know. It's fluid from what everybody's saying. Is it going to be a small place? Is it going to be a large place? And yet we're voting on this today with this language, and it's very loose. And if Ed Rapier, if you're listening, could you chime in on what I'm saying?
I don't know if there's anything to add to what you're saying. I see nothing wrong with the language as the way it's written. It has come from several locations that's being used by other governmental entities. So I see no problem with the language.
Okay, so you see no problem with the language, I understand. But what you're advocating then is that this legislation is to have one location in particular in the chambers and no other. So everybody who's going to videotape, if you have 6 people wanting to videotape, they're going to have to go to a particular spot in the chambers. That's correct?
It's going to, you would go to the spot or spots that are designated as the place to video from. Yes, you are correct.
Even though if it's a cell phone.
Councilman Wilmot, yes.
Okay, I just want an answer. That's all. Nope. Okay. So
Right.
I just want to make sure we're clear on it. That's all. Thank you.
Last 2 speakers, Councilman Brannigan.
Well, I think if we, and if this is legal, if we took out the last row of seats on the north side of the council chambers, and if somebody wanted to videotape with their cell phones, I would think almost 100% of the time they would not be interfering with anyone, because unless the council chambers is totally full. But if we took out the last row on the north side of the council chambers, and that would be the area that they would go to with a cell phone. I mean, it's simple.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to say that it's kind of obvious to Councilman Wilmot and Segura and to most of us that there's some information that is not in this legislation. We have not gotten the input from the fire department. We've not gotten it from the police department. And it may be prudent to defer this, to get an opportunity, because I'm gonna be honest, I haven't been in the council chambers in so long visually, and I'm a visual person, cannot talk right now and say what is a best spot. So I would recommend that, like most of us are talking about, want to ensure the verbiage, to ensure the location, and to ensure the people that we're not trying to put them in a box or a hole. So we need that time to go in there physically, get the experts to tell us about egress and ingress, to ensure that we come up with the verbiage and a spot, if that's going to be, because it is just as important to have a spot as it is to not have a spot where people can do it. And I think we have to look at that to be able to make a sound decision. Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
we have an amendment on the floor. Councilman Segura.
Well, Councilman Brennan had his hand up before me. I didn't know if.
Thank you. I think the idea is we will designate a spot. We're not picking something at this moment. Councilman Wilmot, with no disrespect, and no disrespect to Councilman Segura, if you were standing in row 3 filming, or a person of your height, and Councilman Segura was in row 8, with no disrespect, Councilman Segura, I would imagine he would still have trouble seeing some of the meeting because you were standing up in front of him. We designate an area for Handicapped people, we designate for the film crews when they come in. This is not, we're not picking the spot now that's subject to a decision. But to say anybody can stand anywhere, to me, you just, the whole point is the decorum and to keep the meeting professional and moving along. And just for people to be able to stand up anywhere, whether it's taking a picture, whether it's video recording, I think we're opening a can of worms. So I still am against I don't see a need to defer this at this point. Thank you.
All right, we have Councilman Segura.
Well, again, I just got to, just sort of reiterate the point of the designated area not being designated is fluid. If we're fortunate to move back into our council chamber for the next meeting, we still got other restrictions relative to COVID that are going to be overriding where that designated area may be right now. So we can't very well try to say we can't have a designated area. We've got to be fluid to design that designated depending on these variables that are in front of us. So the language is there and is fairly clear to just say a designated area will be designated. And as we said, the mayor in general services, the council president can work that out as those efforts come along, as those times come along when we need to have other variables. So I'm against the amendment also, and would like to just move forward and pass this.
All right.
I have another question.
I got another.
All right. You first, Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I apologize. I have a concern from being on the council during my tenure that when we are not specific about things, when we just go ahead and vote on something, and now it's open-ended and have to depend on either the mayor, the administration, or the council without vetting it properly, that is leading us down the wrong path. We have to be able to present something to the public that we all have a good feel for, have put our 2 cents in, and to be able to do it. To vote on this now, and we're not even in the council chambers, and we may not be there for a while. So what is the problem of us getting a real good look at this with a deferral? Not that I'm against it. I'm against what Councilman Segura is doing. I'm in favor of what Councilman Wilmot is doing, but there needs to be more verbiage in it so everybody's clear about where we could and where we can't. And I don't think we're there right now to vote on this.
Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that in mind, Mr. President, what I'd like to do is withdraw the amendment, and I would like to move the defer for one meeting.
We have a second?
Second.
All right. Everybody understands what we're saying here. Let's vote on the amendment from Wilmot, seconded by Carroll.
No, sir. He has removed his amendment. Hang on. He has removed his amendment. The motion on the floor now is to defer for one meeting, sir?
That's what he was saying.
One meeting. So your vote would be to defer for one meeting. Any discussion on the deferral? You can entertain discussion on your deferral or vote on deferral.
All in favor?
Motion, I need some thumbs downs and some hands up. Motion fails. 5-2, council members Hayes, Brennan, Brannigan, Segura, and McKinney are opposed to a deferral. Now you're back to your original motion to approve.
Again, the original motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Council Member Hayes. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 5-2. Council members Wilmot and Carroll are opposed.
All right, Madam Clerk, 13B.
Yes, sir. Item 13B is a resolution amending Council Rule 15.4 of the Rules of Organization, Business, Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner.
Again, Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Hayes. Councilman Segura.
Thank you, Council President. This rule change is needed to remove language in our rules that limited public discussion on a topic up for vote to either 5-4 or 5 against. Although this rule, to my knowledge, has never been applied, the removal of this language makes it clear that we would never limit discussion on a topic up for vote, which is why this needs to be approved.
Council members, any discussion? Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank Councilman Segura. This is a fantastic rule. I can remember that maybe once it was applied, but most time, even going back with Mayor Zahn, that we have always suspended council rules to be able to let the citizens of Kenner speak 99% of the time. So this will eliminate it where we won't even have to consider that. So this is good legislation, and I think the people will appreciate this a whole lot. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Carroll. Councilman Brannigan.
I just want to say that I think this is good legislation too, because it takes out any problems that we could have in the future. Thank you, Mike.
Any other council people wish to? Councilman Wilmot.
Ditto. I'd like to say the same thing, and I appreciate Councilman for bringing this legislation. Thank you, Mike.
Adam, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
No hands raised, Councilman.
I'm sorry?
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you so much. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13C is a resolution requesting the city attorney's office review the Kenner County rules and other Kenner ordinances that govern the operation of council meetings and report back to the Kenner City Council with their findings.
We have a motion by Councilman Brennan, seconded by Councilman McKinney. Councilman Brennan, any comments, please?
Thank you, Council Chair. Yes, just to follow what this is, just to ask the legal department to review this and all of our rules and see if there's anything that we should tweak to help us go forward and get those cleaned up. Thank you. I hope everyone considers this and is in support.
Council members, Councilman Segura.
Yes, I would like to thank Councilman Brennan for bringing this up. As when I had put these other ones on the agenda, they were more precise as to what needed to be done soon. But his change, asking the city attorney to look it over is definitely needed. As life goes on, things do change, and sometimes we don't always recognize some language that's been embedded and causes a concern. So having a review like this is definitely a good step forward, as is, and I only bring this up because my first several months on the council, we installed a charter change committee, and they reviewed the whole charter and looked for things that should be upgraded and needed to be changed, and came back with some recommendations. And I would like to encourage our council to take a serious effort of looking back at that and move forward with putting these changes to the charter up also.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council people? Adam, anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
No hands are raised, Councilman.
Thank you so much. Again, we have a motion by Councilman Brennan, seconded by Council Member McKinney to approve. Council people, please vote. Council Clerk, you're muted.
Thank you.
Teresa, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wow.
Your vote is 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,718, an ordinance approving the purchase of modular office buildings for an amount not to exceed $15,000.
Again, we have a motion by Councilman Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Councilman Brannigan, any comments?
Yes, I just think that the modular buildings that we're getting for $15,000 is a steal, and it's a great deal for the city.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And anytime we can enhance and upgrade the city of Kenner in any capacity or department is great. It's just that I'd like to get a little more information. The legislation was kind of vague. It identified the dollar amount, but I did not get what it's going to be used for. Is it going to be replacing? Is it going to be in the location or any of that? So if somebody can share that with me, I would appreciate it.
The dog is answering you.
Well, I'm not talking dog today, but I like
Ms. Poche?
The mayor had his hand up too. Did you want to defer to the mayor first?
I was gonna say, Ms. Foshio, take it, and also I think Kenny Melvin's here to answer some questions.
Absolutely, and I have a couple of pictures and some information, but I see some other hands up. Do we want to get all the questions out, or do we want to wait after the presentation? Maybe there won't be questions. Council President,
Are there any other hands that are up? I didn't see any.
There's some members of the public with their hands raised.
Adam, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak?
We have two, Councilman.
All right.
Stacy Alessandro, you can go first.
Council President Hayes, would you consider letting Ms. Fauché, like she said, make her presentation, and I may get my questions answered, or I may have other questions. Would you consider allowing her to go first, like she suggested?
Yes, I would. I think she has the information we're looking for.
Ms. Fauché, is that okay? And then if I have any questions, I'll ask. If not, I may not have any questions.
It's absolutely fine with me. I just want to defer to the Council President in terms of how he would like to proceed. May I, Council President?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the parish courthouse in Plaquemines Parish burned in 2004. Those of us who lived here probably remember that. It was a very historic structure and a very sad arson experience. Plaquemines Parish moved its court into a set of office trailers. And it was a set of 7 office trailers, which they used as a courthouse. They moved into a brand new, beautiful courthouse in 2000, I think 19 or 18, and they put these up for auction in 2019. In 2019, a bidder purchased the courthouse modular trailers and then abandoned it on site. So a second purchaser acquired it, and that second purchaser was under some encouragement from Plaquemines Parish to move the courthouse trailers or lose the opportunity. So under the encouragement of Plaquemines Parish, they needed to do something. They agreed to sell those to us for $15,000. What I would like to do, if Adam could pull up the first picture for me. This is a 54, Adam, let's see. Okay. So this is a 5,400 square foot combined complex. It is very nicely appointed inside, as you can tell. Next slide. It is mostly office space in a sort of a U shape around that centralized courtroom. Next slide. This is the front door. There's some reception area, common areas, and then the next slide. So it's not much to look at, kind of ugly, but once our general services folks get a hold of it, I feel confident that they will be able to clean it up and make it look a whole lot better. Before COVID came along, we were looking at acquiring office trailers for the Public Works yard to provide space for a number of our displaced office supervisors. Some displaced because we basically had to condemn the recreation building, some displaced for a variety of other reasons. And so we were already looking for this when COVID came along. It was really by the good work of Jimmy Dennis, who spotted that this was available, that it came to our attention. So what I would like to do in particular is I want to thank the Plaquemines Parish government, especially Todd Epley, who is the Director of Public Services, for working with us and giving us a little extra time to move this so that we could come and bring it to you and secure your permission to do so. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kenny Melvin. He is the Assistant Director of Public Works, and he will discuss where it is going to go and what it's going to be used for. And Adam, if you could put up that plat map. Kenny?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can see the little yellow rectangular shape that's right close to a fleet management facility. That's where the building will be erected. All of it will be used for public works and parkways and recreation supervisors, you know, for office space, as well as break area, lunchtime, even on rainy days, taking FEMA courses inside the big area because it's big enough for social distancing. So that's about the gist of it.
All right. So, and just that one can stay there, Adam. As you can see, that's right behind the TOCA building. That is the closest area to where we have existing utilities. We have fiber, we have electricity, we have plumbing. It will cost, the buildings themselves, the combined buildings are $15,000. It will cost $29,000 to take them apart into 7 separate units, to put tongues on them, to put wheels on them, to have them weatherized for transported to our lot, put back together, re-roofed, the siding put around the outside and making it weatherproof. So it will be a put back together external shell. After that, our own general services will still need to go in and do wiring, plumbing, hooking it up to services, because as you can tell, it's pretty beautiful the way it is right now, particularly on the inside, but they're going to have to disconnect some of the electric and the plumbing and all of that when they pull them apart into the 7 units. So at this time, we would, that's the information I have, but if anyone has any questions, there may be something I have not thought to bring up. Council President.
Thank you so much. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Forsythe, thank you for the history lesson about Plaquemines Parish. Thank you for the information that I missed or I didn't see it. But I gotta say that you are being too kind to say that it doesn't look good on the outside. It looks horrible on the outside. So that it does. Mr. Melvin identified that also recreation will be part of this facility, you know, not knowing the square footage or how many different groups or people. So if recreation will be part of this building, does that mean they'll be leaving out of the mall and we will not have any more people in the mall?
No, sir. It's office space. And we're talking about the portion of recreation that is still in the condemned building is the storage for their shoulder pads, their helmets. There's a lot of equipment in there. That is the reason that building is still standing and has not been demolished by the city as of this time, is because basically that whole second floor, or a lot of that second floor and some of the back of the first floor, is still being used as storage. It's not inhabitable, and we have to pull that out. So when we say recreation, it will not be people as much as it will be recreation equipment. Recreation equipment, everything that was from the recreation storage unit, all the recreation storage that is currently in the old rec building will be moved to this location because there is no room for all this equipment at the mall.
Thank you. No people, equipment.
No people, equipment, unless we hire more people, but I don't think we're going to be doing that anytime soon.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And now I know more. I have a better understanding of this purchase. Thank you.
Councilmember McKinney.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a couple additional questions. Thank you for sharing your presentation. I appreciate it. Gave me more insights. My questions are, so is it going to have a slab? And has the building been tested for mold? And because I know we have other concerns. So I just want to make sure that we're not getting a building that already is infested with mold. And then I saw in the pictures, I saw that there was a courthouse. You know, what is that? What are the plans for that area? Obviously, is that going to be for classes? And they mentioned classes. So I just have a question about that. Thank you.
Okay, so all we have is that it was tested for mold before it was sold last year. So we have a year's potential issue there, but there's no physical evidence of mold at the time that we acquired it. It's also $15,000. So the cost of removing everything on the inside and replacing it is less than it would cost to buy a new trailer. With respect to the large court area, I know when I suspect that our clerk of court and our assistant clerk of court are watching right now, and they are salivating because that is so much better looking than where we have them in Mayor's Court right now. It is gorgeous. I wish it were an opportunity for us to do that there as well, but we can't. What we're going to end up doing is using that as the training room area, as Mr. Melvin was talking about, when on the rainy days when we don't want them to. They can come in, they can do their FEMA training, they can come in and, you know, I don't know, Councilwoman, if you were ever in that downstairs right-hand side of the recreation building, but that was really a conference, a large group conference area where if you wanted to bring people in and update them on something that was going on or have any sort of get together where you wanted to talk to the entire department, that's what that was used for. We have completely lost having any space where we can do that. So it will likely just be used as a large gathering area. It'll have seats put in there or folding chairs or whatever, but sadly, I don't think we're going to be able to use it for court, no matter how beautiful it is.
And just one, what is the maintenance costs for it going, like Councilman Carroll said, and you mentioned that it looks kind of rough on the outside. Do we have an estimated amount, an estimated operating budget for maintenance?
Well, the estimated operating budget for the maintenance of the exterior is $50 because that's the bleach it's going to take to pressure wash it. We are not going to make it look like the Taj Mahal, but we are going to paint it. It is certainly not a building that is a public access building. It is not a place we're inviting the public to come into, but we have a lot worse looking buildings already that we own. So the maintenance costs, besides just your regular square foot price that we pay for what we have through our own employees and our own supplies, I'm not sure why we would have any greater maintenance for that location.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fauché. Any other questions? Adam, is there anybody out in the audience that would like to speak?
Miss Alessandro has her hand up still. Stacy, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Fauché. You answered almost every single question that I had. I just have one question. Have we already purchased these buildings?
We have a purchase agreement by which if this is not approved, then we get our money back. So we basically have a $15,000 purchase agreement with a $15,000 deposit. So the money comes back if the council does not approve it.
Okay. Well, I think the inside of these is beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Outside leaves a lot to be desired. But the inside does look very nice. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to publicly thank Jimmy Dennis for finding this. That was good work. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmot. Council members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 15B is a resolution selecting the New Orleans Advocate as the official journal for the city of Kenner for the fiscal year 2020 through 2021.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Anybody has any comments? Anybody from the audience have any comments?
Alessandro has her hand up, Council President.
Yes,
Go ahead.
ma'am.
Oh my gosh, I didn't plan on speaking on this many things, but I just have another question on this, and hopefully that's it till the end for me. I was just looking at the resolution itself. It said that this was supposed to be done the first week in June to be effective July 1st. Is that correct? Today's July 9th, so I'm just curious if this is okay that we do it after the fact. I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Any comment from anybody to answer that? All right.
It's fine.
Council members, please vote.
Mr. Rapier said he'd like to speak.
Who?
Mr. Rapier.
Ed.
I just answered the question. Yes, it's fine to vote on this at this point in time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rapier, I didn't hear you.
Yes, it's fine to vote on this at this point in time.
I did hear you that, Tom. Thank you. All in favor?
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is a resolution ratifying change order number 2 in the amount of $24,432.30 and approving change order number 3 in the amount of $14,650.72 and change order number 4 in the amount of $4,056.18 to the agreement with Ellis Builders LLC dated February 6, 2020 regarding the improvements to the Council on Aging building for a net increase of $43,139.20 to the agreement amount, resulting in a total agreement amount of $311,181.70 and an additional 101 calendar days to the agreement time for the Department of Community Development.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Wilmot. Any comments? Councilperson McKinney? Take it. You're on mute.
Yes, I apologize. I just wanted to, if Ms. Shaw could answer, just explain what caused the extension and also the overruns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman McKinney. We knew going into this project because this building houses our seniors, so we wanted to make some ADA modifications to the building. But the building is a two-part building. One part of the building was built in 1997, but the other part of the building was built, it predates 1950. So we knew, because one was a donation to the city to operate the Council on Aging, and then we built a new part on top. So we knew going in, there will be some unforeseen deficiencies, which do cause change orders to appear. This was bid out for $241,000. When we did bid it out, the next responsive bid was $307,000. So we're not over much so we saved that money because imagine we would have had the $307 plus the changes that we've had. But I think, like I said, with some of the ADA modifications, just like when you go to auctioneer and you're in the bathroom, you can call for help. You'll be able to do that now. This building, like I said, handles and operates for our seniors. But not only that, we rent this building out to the public. We have our Veterans Day program there. So we want to make sure that since we were improving the building, making it, like I say, ADA compliant for our seniors, and also, like I said, making it presentable since we do rent this building out for community events, repasses, and other functions within the city. So like I said, we've had our engineer come in and look at all of these requests for change orders. So when you got the backup, not only did you get the request of what the builder requested, you also got what's called a cost reasonableness. This requires the engineer to go in every request and make sure that it's reasonable. If it's not reasonable, then we don't approve it. So we don't even present it to you until we get those cost reasonableness. So we got all the cost reasonableness factors from the engineer, and then we put it before you for approval of those.
Perfect. Thank you, Director Shaw. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And Director Attorney Shaw, thank you for your and your department hard work on this. And as the mayor mentioned before about the other $1 million grant that we got, as a South Kendall boy growing up, seeing that building for many, many years, it is one of those spots in South Kenner that everybody has been there one time or another for happy occasions and also for more solemn occasions, as you said about the repasses. I think that for the people who spend a lot of time, the seniors who have done so much for the city of Kenner, who were the building blocks for the city of Kenner, for us to have the opportunity to improve and upgrade the building is just fantastic. This is one of those buildings that have been delayed for a number of years. It seemed like something was always happening that we could not come in and do this. And now it seems, even through the pandemic and all, and before, we have an opportunity for the seniors to come back. We were there a lot during the food giveaway, mask giveaway, and all of that. It has that ambiance of a building that's inviting. So the seniors are welcome there and they feel comfortable there. So we look forward when this building is done. As far as the modifications and the addressing that, as far as city funds, general funds or whatever, how much of this project will be city funds or not?
None of this project is funded by the city. Nothing comes from the general fund. This project is solely funded by CDBG funds from HUD, and that's one of the purposes of that funding is to help those projects in low to moderate income areas to be just as good as any other building in the city. So that's the purpose of us doing this. And like I said, this houses our seniors from day to day. We had areas where we had to do modifications to just steps. I know everyone seems like, we can just walk, but if you have a walker, you can't have those things impeding you. So we've corrected those and made those modifications for our seniors. Like I said, we have so many events for our seniors there. They have their Mardi Gras ball, we have our Veterans Day. So we want to make sure that this building is accommodating to that vulnerable population.
It is. And as far as the ADA, every building in South Kenner is not ADA compliance. We have added something to it, but it just was a period that it wasn't required. So as we move forward, as we go in the direction to improve the Rivertown area, all of the buildings, these are some costs that we're going to have to deal with and to make it more compliance for everyone. So I'm sure the ladies and men who have been coming there for many years are looking forward to the day when we are reopening and to be able to come out and to.
We are anticipating it. We are keeping in touch with our seniors. Unfortunately, we have lost some of our seniors during this time, but we're keeping in touch with them. They are eager to come back. We want this to be ready for them. And there were some challenges at first, and this goes back to Councilwoman McKinney's, because of COVID, there were some challenges in getting materials for the project, but now we think, and we don't anticipate being to September 24th, but we want to give enough time the engineer did in case there are more delays, because we do have the roof to put on, but most of the interior is done because that could be done without, because those materials were available.
Well, thank you, thank your staff, thank the administration and the council, and we all look forward to coming back there again for the grand opening and to be able to mingle with the seniors who have done so much for the city of Kenner. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you all. Adam, anybody from the audience?
No hands, Councilman.
Thank you so much. Again, we have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid from BLD Services LLC to provide preventative maintenance for existing sanitary and storm sewers, including service laterals in accordance with seal bid number 20-6555 and an amount not to exceed $200,000 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid from Casco Industries Incorporated for the purchase of G1 air mask for self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department in accordance with bid 20-1959 in an amount not to exceed $7,614. Item 16C is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Premier Chemicals and Services for a contract to provide sodium hydrochloride on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 20-6558 in an amount not to exceed $71,190 for the Department of Wastewater. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from the Pennant Shop to supply flags in accordance with letter bid 20-1960 in an amount not to exceed $15,000 annually for the Department of General Services. Item 16E is an ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances regarding violations of declaration of emergencies and to provide for related matters. Item 16F is an ordinance accepting an award in the amount of $1,100,000 for the use of lead hazard grant funds in the city of Kenner for the Department of Community Development. Item 17 is reports from the council and or special committees. We have
Councilman
none.
Carroll.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I have a couple of things for two separate departments. Kudos, actually. The first is for the drainage and the sewer. I'd like to thank that department because over the past couple of weeks, I've received calls from constituents on 4 different occasions to help support them with different drainage or sewage issues. The young men that came out did a fantastic job. Even one of them was about 10 o'clock at night. So to be able to get in touch with the crew that was working that night to come out after 10 o'clock, wrapping it up about 30, 40 minutes later, it was good to see that the men and women were able to come out and to alleviate that because, nobody wants to deal with drainage or sewer issues, particularly late at night. So I'd like to thank them, thank the department for the young men and the women that helped facilitate it from the calls all the way through the men coming out. They did a fantastic job and, kudos to them. My second comments are for the Public Works, and it relates to the director there are a couple of issues. One, that we have to, from my office, put something into play to get a no truck route sign, to get a no speeding and children at play sign, and a no parking sign. So all of them are kind of related. I'll just like to ensure that the procedure director that I have to do from my office is to help me with that, to make sure that we move forward with getting these things into place. And is it my understanding to submit an email to your office, and there may be a traffic study that has to be done? I know it has to be legislation for the signs, but is that the right thing to do? And because I want to be able to help you guys to expedite this.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments?
Is the director on Ms. Fauché, Public Works?
I'm on, and I think that'd be the best place to start. If you would just, excuse me, send me an email outlining what you'd like to do, and we'll follow up on it, and we'll give you instructions of what you need to do.
Okay, and then one last question. One of the ones about the Fillmore Street, and as everyone knows, Fillmore Street south of Airline is in District 1, is Fillmore Street, north is Roosevelt. But the Fillmore side, there are some concerns about the signs, and Fillmore Street is divided right up the middle. The west side is the people in Kenner vote in Kenner, the east side in Jefferson Parish. So we always have to go back and forth about who is it to maintain the street. Finally, Mr. Gonzalez forwarded me some information, and I just want to confirm that based on legislation and understanding from many, many years ago, that the city of Kenner is responsible for the upkeep and for any type of signage that we will put there. Is that correct, as far as your understanding for that? And if it's something we have to look into, I have an email that Mr. Gonzalez sent to me, one of the former directors, and if you need to look at it, I can send it to you. But for right now, is that your understanding?
Councilman, I'd have to look at it. If you don't mind sending me that information, I'll follow up on it.
Okay. That'll be fine. I'll ask Kelly to send it to you, and we will forward the emails as it relates to those 3 separate requests for that.
Thank you. I'll follow up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments? I do want to thank the mayor and the administration. On the June 20th, the cruise in the lake was a real major success for Safe Harbor, a wonderful nonprofit that helps women, obviously, who are in difficult situations. Over $5,000 were made. They already contacted us and said they want to come back next year and have the event. So thank everybody that was involved there. Good work. Councilman Brannigan.
I just wanted to say Glenn did a great job on today's meeting, and I'm glad that you're the council president now.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and our motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Adam, do we have anybody?
I know Mr. Al Morello would like to speak. He's first. Al, you can go ahead.
4260 East Railroad Drive, 5th District, 48 years. I'd like to request a moment of silence. 38 years ago today, Pan Am Flight 759 went down, killing 143 passengers on board and 8 people in South Carolina neighborhood and wiping out the entire neighborhood. So I'd like a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I want to respond to some comments that Henry Shane made in here concerning East Jefferson Hospital. One important thing that Mr. Shane left out of his presentation was that failed project that he approved, along with the rest of that board, on the corner of Clearview and Veterans, that resulted in a $4 million being squandered, a 10-year lease at $45,000 a month for a now abandoned building, and multiple lawsuits by the owner of that building against Jefferson Parish. I'm opposed to the sale of that hospital, and I will oppose to that because I'd like to know how many more projects did Mr. Shane, his colleagues on that board, prove like this one. And I want accountability. And that's why I'm opposed to it. Next topic. I want to address this to the mayor. I'm one of the ones who believe, Mayor, that your emergency proclamation concerning these mandatory face coverings, masks, whatever you want to call them, I think it's government overreach more than it is public safety, and I'm going to tell you why. The fact of the matter is that yourself and Parish President Lee Shane are establishment career politicians. I don't remember seeing that one piece of legislation from either one of you all challenging the governor and the legislature in Baton Rouge on mandating reform to these nursing homes. And 40% of the cases in this state are in our nursing homes. I don't remember seeing any legislation put forth by neither one of you, y'all career politicians. Okay? Now, I'd like to know how many of our elected officials have been tested for this coronavirus. Because you see, I've been tested 3 times, and all 3 times I've come back negative. And I'm 74 years old, and according to the experts, I'm in the highest risk age bracket. So, anyway, anybody got any comments, any questions for me? Thank you.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Al, it's good to hear that you're doing well, sir. And I pray for you to continue to have good health, 74 years young. And I hope to live that, to get to that age and to be able to have the energy that you display from that standpoint. But as it relates to your comments about the mask, you know, I'm not a healthcare expert. I take my information from the healthcare experts, just like I do when I buy a bottle of Tylenol. They recommend how many I should take. They recommend if I have certain conditions that I shouldn't take it. So I believe it, and I don't question it as it relates to that. I think that the governor and the mayor and for the council for the most part, but more importantly, the businesses realize that there are some things that for the good of the people, the body, we have to be able to adhere to that. And we're not trying to overreach on anyone, in my opinion, but listening to the experts, listening to the numbers, and I'm not going into numbers as it relates to Jefferson Parish and Kenner, but it's just not something Mayor Zahn is doing. Council President Chang is doing it. The governor recommends certain things. So, you know, I think when we're in this position, sometimes it's a decision that we have to make that we feel will be for the betterment of the citizens. I'm not trying to say anybody else's position is wrong, but because we are in this position, we have to base it on that. We have to get up each morning and understand that not only our families, but the families that are part of the city of Kenner and Jefferson Parish. So please allow us the capacity to do the best. And until we do something that's, you know, totally not in your best interest or safety, if it's up in the air, please give us that ability to have that, to be able to do the benefit of the doubt, I guess, for lack of a better word. So we will continue, in my opinion, to do what's best for the city. Please keep your health up, and please keep coming back and letting us know when you feel that we are maybe stretching it too much. But I think the dialogue is great to be able to have with you and everyone else on this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Adam, anybody else?
The mayor has his hand up.
Mayor? You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilman Carroll, for that support. And I do want to reach out to Mr. Morelli and let him know that myself and also President Lee Shane, we both reached out to our councils. She reached out to her council first, then she reached out to all the mayors. What the other mayors do is up to them and their municipalities. But before I did anything, not that I had to, but instead of being what I think you called myself and Cynthia established politicians or something like that, I don't know, whatever. I know you've run a few times to maybe get that seat yourself, but I reached out to my council. I had a discussion with the council, and to what I remember, and I reached out to them 3 at a time also, to what I remember is that I had 100% council support, and Councilman Carroll just stated his position. I think 6 other council people would state their position, that they are very supportive of what I did. And I appreciate that support. We have the support of our fire department. The fire department's doing it. We have support of the police department if it becomes an issue when someone refuses when it becomes to the police level. The police department is not enforcing it, but I found out today that the police department, and I want to thank the chief, the police chief, I found out today from one of the police officers that they're actually doing it in their building. And I didn't tell them to do that. So I want to tell the police chief, thank you. So you do see support from actually all the elected officials of the city of Kenner. And it's because we all work together. And I do agree with Councilman Carroll that, you know, we don't mind hearing from you, but it's a public safety thing. It's a public safety thing, and it's what's best for the public. Again, you may not wear a seatbelt, maybe you do, but is that a little overreaching? It's your car. You may smoke, you may not smoke, but you're told not to do it in restaurants. Is that a little overreaching? Look, you can call it that. It's not much different. I've said it before. A mask now is a piece of clothing or an accessory that you should grab every morning before you walk out your house, because it's the way of life that we're dealing with right now. I guess government sometimes has to get involved, and leaders have to make decisions that not 100% of the people are happy with. But I'm telling you, I mean, I think the council sees it along with me, and I think our chiefs see it, that we see a lot of support from the public. So everybody's entitled to their opinion. If you don't want to wear it, I don't know, maybe you can't shop in Kenner. We'd like you to, but maybe you can't, because those business owners are also doing it, because they have employees to protect also. So I want to thank those businesses for doing it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait, Councilman, Miss Alessandro has her hand up. We have more members of the public that would like to speak.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Hello, thank you. I'd just like to state I'm very upset at the way this meeting went regarding videotaping the council meetings. This business of, oh, it's got to be fluid because of COVID is ridiculous, because everybody's watching from home right now. Anybody can video anywhere they want. And then maybe we're having a meeting somewhere else. I've been going to council meetings 14 years. I can't remember the last time we had a Kenner council meeting somewhere else. So this business of not studying this a little further and trying to make sure that this is being done correctly, I think is ridiculous. Once again, done in haste. 2 people tried to stop it, done in haste. So, and earlier I raised a legitimate question in the beginning, and I asked Council President Hayes to try to make sure I got an answer as to why I was stopped from doing something, video in a meeting on March 5th that I had a legitimate right to do by law. At that meeting, I wasn't blocking anybody. I was sitting in a bench. I had the camera at chest level. My arm was not extended. It stayed at chest level on my body the entire time. But I was illegally made to stop under possible threat of arrest. I complained about this multiple times at the meeting. I was met with silence, just like I was met with silence today when I asked this question. The only answer I got was from the city attorney, who said I couldn't do it, but couldn't give me an answer as to why not. So now tonight, we're suddenly making these rules, even though we have never had a problem with this in the 14 years I have been going to council meetings. I've never heard a peep about anybody, any private citizen blocking anybody else, that nobody could see the meeting because somebody was video recording. I have never heard a peep in 14 years of council meetings. But now suddenly, me, a private citizen who is standing up for the rest of the citizens in this community, I made a complaint to the Attorney General's office. My rights were violated when I was stopped. And now all of a sudden, now we're going to have this thing where the people, citizens who want to video the meeting are now going to be segregated into the back rows. Just because the complaint is made that y'all did something wrong now, this seems very punitive. It seems like the citizens who want to record these meetings, which we have a right to do by law, are now being punished. We're going to be segregated to the back of the room where you can keep an eye on all of us who want to video record all in one spot. I think it's ridiculous. I think maybe y'all should revisit this before the meeting ends. Somebody who was on the prevailing side can maybe bring this up for reconsideration and pause this for one meeting. I think it's being done wrong. I'm very unhappy that my question, my legitimate question earlier in the meeting, was ignored. And you know what? I've never been told I'm sorry. And guess what? After this, since I had to ask for it, I don't want anybody to tell me they're sorry. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Stacy, for your comments, but I just want to let you know that I'm not sure if you heard it or you cut off, but I did I did. If you didn't hear it, please go back and listen to the recording. I did answer your question. So I just wanted to go on record and also to let you know that I did. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait, Councilman, there's one more citizen that wants to talk, Mr. Greg Teft.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Mr. Teft, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, and I'll make this pretty quick. My name is Greg Taft. I live in 5th District. I just have a question regarding the occupational license. Because I know that with the pandemic, the city can certainly use any income they can receive, from any sale of goods or services. So my question is, dealing with the occupational license, would it be required for an occupational license if somebody is from their home using a computer or or have offering services for goods and sales from their home, would they be required to get an occupational license? For example, you go to Republic, I see some of their signs out where they're offering service from their home. I also know that people are using the website to solicit businesses to advertise, and they're using the website to sell goods and services. So my question really is an occupational license required to someone that is selling goods or providing services from their home? And that's it. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Well, I fit into that situation, Mr. Teff. I have a little business, a little insurance company I do for my house, and I do have an occupational license. So I think the answer to your question is. Again, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Councilman Brennan? Councilman Brannigan. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.